All right, welcome to the fifth video for the Unit 5 notes. This video is all about irrigation methods. So we'll talk about the different methods, some of their benefits, and some of their drawbacks. Now, before we do that, we're going to talk about what the point of talking about irrigation is, and the reason is because that irrigation gives us about 70% of all of our freshwater use in the world. So you can see here from all of the fresh water that we have, about 68 to 70% of that water is used just in agriculture through irrigation. So irrigation will increase productivity of agricultural processes. 16% of agricultural land is irrigated and produces 40% of the world's food. So it's very important. Now, one of the drawbacks to irrigation is called waterlogging, where you put too much water into land, and this causes the roots to not be able to get enough oxygen, which can obviously harm and kill the crop. Another downside is salinization, where when you irrigate, salt is left behind after evaporation, or if you're just adding salt water, too much salt left in the soil can be toxic for plant growth. So the first type of irrigation method that the first irrigation method we're going to look at is furrow irrigation, where you build trenches and you fill them with water. 65% of the water that reaches the plant roots and is not lost to evaporation or runoff. It's low in effort and it's very cheap to do, but obviously this can lead to waterlogging and salinization. Another method is flood irrigation. You flood the field, you let the water soak in evenly. It's 70 to 80% efficient. It's easy, it's cheap, but again, it leads to waterlogging and salinization. Spray irrigation is another method that you probably know about. This is probably how you water your lawn. Essentially, you take water and you pump it through into nozzles or sprinklers. It can be anywhere from 75 to 95% efficient, so it is more efficient, but it does cost more money and it uses more energy because you have to pump that water. And then drip irrigation, which again you probably have in your own yard to water some plants. Essentially a hose drips water slowly, either buried or on top. It can be over 95% efficient. It has the most efficiency. It reduces weed growth because you're being very specific to where you're watering. It can keep the surface soil dry, which is especially useful for perennials. It does cost the most money, and it might need to remove, you have to remove it if you have to plow the area. Now, one of the reasons that we talk about irrigation and freshwater problems is the depletion of aquifers. And one of the largest aquifers in the world, the largest in the United States, is the Ogallala Aquifer, which is over the Midwest from South Dakota all the way down into Texas. Now you can see from this graph where it exists and how it is fed on the left, but on the right, this is where we actually see the water change, and you get an idea as we are depleting this aquifer, it's not good. So the water is being used up. This is where most of our agricultural practices are being done, and the water is being used up and lost. So that is the end of our fifth video, all about irrigation methods. Our next video will be about pest control methods.